My name is Sarah Mitchell, and for as long as I can remember, nursing has been my calling. I loved the hospital corridors, the steady rhythm of beeping monitors, and the way being present for someone in their darkest moment could make a difference. But somewhere along the line, I lost myself. Between endless shifts, paperwork, and the quiet emptiness of returning to an empty apartment, I became invisible, not just to others, but to myself. At 38, divorced and childless, I told myself I was fine. I buried my loneliness under scrubs and duty, convincing myself that my patients' needs and my colleagues' reliance were enough. That is, until James Lawson rolled into my care. James was 32, admitted to the orthopedic unit where I worked after a car accident, fractured his leg, leaving him dependent on nurses like me for everything, from medication to mobility assistance. At first, he was just another patient, another file, another name on the chart. But James had a way of looking at me that stirred something I hadn't felt in years. The first time I noticed it was during a routine check. I walked into his room with my clipboard, offering my usual professional smile, and asked, "How's the pain today, James?" He looked up, his green eyes locking onto mine with an intensity that caught me off guard. "Better now that you're here," he said, his lips curling into a half smile. I laughed awkwardly, brushing it off as the kind of light-hearted comment patients make to lift their spirits, but the warmth in his voice lingered, echoing in my mind long after I left his room. Day after day, I checked on him. Our conversations started small. His love for baseball, the sci-fi novels he read, how he missed driving his vintage Mustang. But soon they grew deeper. James asked about my life, not in the polite surface-level way, but with genuine curiosity. When I shared that I'd been divorced for 5 years, he didn't offer the usual pitying glance. Instead, he asked, "Do you ever think about starting over?" The question hit me like a wave. Start over. At my age, with the scars I carried, I wanted to say no, but instead, I whispered, "Sometimes." Over the weeks of his recovery, I realized something unsettling. I looked forward to my shifts because of him. I caught myself lingering in his room, laughing at his dry humor, even choosing my scrubs with more care, hoping he'd notice. It was a dangerous line. Nurses weren't supposed to get attached to patients, but my heart didn't care about rules. One evening, near the end of a grueling shift, I came in to adjust his pillows. His hand brushed mine as he reached out, holding on just a moment longer than necessary. His voice was soft, almost hesitant. "Sarah, do you know how incredible you are?" I froze, every professional instinct screaming to pull away, but his words melted a wall I'd built around myself. For years, I'd been invisible, unloved, undesired. And here was this man, injured, vulnerable, yet strong in spirit, reminding me I was still a woman worth seeing. That night, I went home and stared at my reflection in the mirror. For the first time in years, I didn't see just a tired nurse. I saw Sarah Mitchell, the woman beneath the scrubs, the woman who still longed to feel alive. The days turned into weeks, and James's health improved. He started walking with crutches, and discharge loomed closer. I felt both relief and heartbreak. Relief that he was healing, heartbreak that he'd soon leave, taking with him the spark he'd ignited in me. On James's last day, as I handed him his discharge papers, the hospital room felt smaller, the air heavy with unspoken words. He looked at me, his eyes steady and unwavering, and said, "Sarah, I don't want this to be goodbye." His voice was firm, yet there was a vulnerability in it that mirrored my own. My heart pounded, torn between fear of crossing that professional line and the undeniable pull I felt toward him. I opened my mouth to respond, but no words came. Instead, I stood frozen, clutching the clipboard like a shield. Then James did something unexpected.
He reached into his bag and pulled out a small, worn journal. "I've been writing in this since the accident," he said, flipping it open to a page filled with his neat handwriting. "It's mostly about recovery, but a lot of it's about you." He handed it to me, his fingers brushing mine again, this time with purpose. "You didn't just help me heal physically, Sarah. You reminded me there's still good in the world, still people worth fighting for." I took the journal, my hands trembling. As I read the words he'd written, "Sarah's smile is like sunlight after a storm. She doesn't know how much she's given me. Hope, laughter, a reason to keep going." Tears welled in my eyes, and for the first time, I let myself feel the weight of my own longing. "James, I wish I'd found you sooner," I whispered. In that moment, the hospital's rules faded, and I saw not just a patient, but a man who'd seen me, the real me, when I'd forgotten how to see myself. Before he left, James asked for my number, promising to call once he was settled. I hesitated, then wrote it on a scrap of paper, my heart racing with a mix of fear and hope. As he walked out, crutches clicking against the floor, he turned back and smiled, a smile that promised a new beginning. That night, I sat in my apartment, the journal open on my lap, and felt something shift. I wasn't just Sarah the nurse anymore. I was Sarah the woman, ready to take a chance on life again. The impact of that moment didn't stop with me. Inspired by James's courage and the connection we'd forged, I started a support group at the hospital for nurses struggling with burnout and loneliness. I shared my story, not the details of James, but the truth about feeling invisible and finding my way back. Colleagues opened up, some in tears, admitting they'd felt the same. The group grew, drawing nurses from other units, even doctors and staff, creating a space where we could be human, not just caregivers. The administration took notice, launching a wellness program inspired by our meetings. Local news ran a story, calling it the Mitchell Movement, and I received letters from healthcare workers across the state who'd started similar groups, thanking me for reminding them to care for themselves too. Months later, James did call. We met for coffee, then dinner, and slowly we built something new, not just a relationship, but a shared belief in second chances. That small journal, now filled with both our words, became a symbol of our journey. And as I walked through the hospital corridors, I carried a new lightness, knowing that love and healing could find you in the most unexpected places, reminding you who you are when you've forgotten.